Let's take a look at the incredible power of paradigms and how they cover up reality until we don't see it anymore. Paradigms are like an embargo of thought, when worldviews or self-perceptions cannot enter our thought process anymore. Most of the time it's things that are just like that, but we don't think about them and most of the time don't know about them at all. You can say that there are different types of paradigms, starting probably with the personal paradigms about what you think is true and important. There are practical paradigms when things are done this way just because they were always done like this, and now it's really too late to do it otherwise. There are scientific paradigms when we believe reality is described by theories and equations, or social paradigms when society follows covenants that make no sense in itself. There are also uncovered paradigms, like paradigms that were taken for granted in the past, and now when we hear about them, we laugh about it and the stupidity of humanity before. The worst paradigms, you could say, are paradigms in paradigms. It's like when you dream in a dream, when you dream to wake up and you're still dreaming. These paradigms are almost impossible to crack. Take a look at the origin of typewriters. When they were created and invented in the late 18th century, there were, of course, a lot of debates about the best arrangement of keys. And different companies competed against each other about several decades. And one to mention was the Dvorak keyboard, which was incredibly fast and easy to type. But there was one problem. Even when we were only a medium skilled writer, the typing speed was so fast that it made the mechanical typing bars block. And to solve this problem, the keyboard had to purposely be modified for a slower typing process. And that's the reason why today we have the so-called QWERTY keyboard. In other words, today society knowingly uses a keyboard that prevents fast typing. And you could say this is a practical paradigm which evolved into a social paradigm. Another paradigm, you could say, is that time moves in clockwise direction, although of course it doesn't. The word clockwise didn't even exist before clocks. And in fact, some of the first mechanical watches, they ticked into the counterclockwise direction. So why is clockwise not the other direction today? Now you could say, if you look at the sundial, the shadow of the sun moves in today's clockwise direction, but only if it's a horizontal one. So if you attach a sundial to the wall in a vertical way, the sun's shadow moves counterclockwise. Eventually, the more widespread watches set the standard, and if the clockmakers had better marketing strategies in these days, time might be moving counterclockwise today. Let's take a look at some scientific paradigms of the past. For example, the first flying machines were built upon the belief of a substance called celestial ether. And as the theory said, this ether always floated to the sky and was also the reason why the birds could fly. They had it in them. And the plan was to build the flying machines and to capture this celestial ether and fill it into these large hollow globes so man could fly as well. Another scientific paradigm from the past was the existence of phlogiston. And it was believed that flammable objects were full of this substance. So when things burned, it was because the phlogiston was escaping into the air. And it was also the reason why if you put a glass over a burning candle, the phlogiston would fill up the air and thus extinguishing the fire. Now there are paradigms that had and still have a much larger effect on people. For example, claiming that Earth is at the center of the universe and prohibiting any other thought because it was a crime against God. or the belief that there are different classes of human beings, and these classes are determined by birthright. You see that these concepts, worldviews and paradigms also put reality in a cage of unconsciousness. When you believe in celestial ether, phlogiston, slavery or specific theories, you're blindfolded to look at a bigger truth. And for this we don't even have to look in the past. Even today we're still trapped in many paradigms. For example, the belief that perception is reality, rather than reality is the unperceivable. Or that the speed of light is the limit, rather than the speed of light is determined by the limit given by the delay of now, for example. Or the statement in the physics of light that the arriving angle equals the emerging angle, since quantum theory already introduced the probability path function saying something else. Or the statement that light is reflected at all, rather than that photons are absorbed and new photons are emitted again. Or the belief that matter is solid and atoms are like the Lego kits of existence. Even simple things like the belief that the sun rises is a paradigm, because in reality the earth just rotates into the rays of the sun. And a good example for a paradigm in a paradigm is the belief that God doesn't exist, and that God is some kind of superhero being. You see, when you say that God doesn't exist, you must have first accepted the paradigm of God being some kind of superhero. So you may ask where these paradigms come from. Ultimately, they come from you and what you believe. Every one of us processes information all day, things we hear or see, opinions of others, and experiences we make. And all this is filtered into our unconscious conditioning, but most of the time this doesn't reach our conscious thought process. Today a major source of information are the media, and you could really say they are like a forge of paradigms. So let's take a look at a scientific discovery presented by the media. I took a random scientific news report, in this case about the proof for the massive expansion immediately after the Big Bang. But it's not about the topic, it's about the course of events from headline until the end of the article. And it starts out with the proof was made, claim some scientists, but they are referring to some unproven theories, and if this observation can be verified from different sources as well, it actually could become a proof. So this irony is not on my side. You will find this structure of argumentation in almost all mass media reports and also scientific journals. So congratulations, you just learned another paradigm. But to be honest, how can you make advancements in astronomy or science with new and creative methods? If you say, I don't think that dark matter is real, I have a better explanation, who will listen to this? Of course, no one has ever seen, proven or observed dark matter, and it doesn't exist. It's just a filler for another theory to make it work. So paradigms are vicious circles, and they keep propelling themselves for a long time. So if you're interested, in my videos I explore the flaws of current paradigms and offer new ideas about reality. Don't get me wrong, there will always be paradigms. They just develop and change. Earlier in history, mankind might have thought the Earth is flat or at the center of the universe. Today society thinks that Earth is just somewhere in the universe. And only some people know that Earth is actually at the center of the observable universe, while some people already know that the observable universe is the only universe. And while other people already know that the universe is just a concept of our imagination. So do you know the most powerful of all paradigms? It's language. You can say that all things or feelings or concepts have names in our languages, but they're still only concepts. If you take a look at a rose, they're all different, but they have like one name, rose. Or if you take a look at trees, we have just one word for it, but all trees are different. Or if you take a look at people, we just have one word for it, but they're all different. When we take a look at this house, actually we look at our imagination of it, of our conception. Because we say, okay, it has walls, it has a roof, it has windows, and people can live in it, check, it's a house. We don't actually see the house, we only see the concept of it. This continues throughout our lives. Like if you take a look at tastes, what is actually the taste of an apple or of a tomato? And as soon as you look at the description, okay, now it's tasty, it's delicious, it's yummy, you don't actually experience the taste anymore. The same thing applies to feelings. Like if you say, I want to feel abundant, does it mean you have to be rich and have a lot of money? Do you connect this with abundance? Or when you say, I want to feel love, do you want like a partner, or do you want to have the actual feeling of love? When we are not aware of our concepts, we see but a shadow of reality. We think everything is named and everything that exists has a name to it, but actually it's really the other way. If you make a comparison of what is named and what is not, there's infinitely more things that are not named and they don't have any names. So when you want to escape the maze of paradigms and fly towards reality, start this journey today. It's a conscious effort. Find something new, like on your way to work or even on your way into the living room. Stand up after this video and look for something new. Find it, something that you have never seen before. And it's difficult in the beginning because there are so many things, infinite things you have never seen before. Have you ever seen this branch? Or have you ever seen this blade of grass? Or do you know the name of this emotion? Or do you know the name of this feeling when you suddenly see behind a person's face and see his whole life? Just look at a rose. Sit there and witness it. Have you ever seen this form of a rose? Do you see that it's not really a rose? That the reason why you can call it a rose is that it has no name? We can only name things that have no name. So let go of the worldviews and self-perceptions. I wish you a good time enjoying the contrast.